what's going on with ballistic missiles that are raining down on Israel, and not just anywhere in Israel. I mean, they're going toward Tel Aviv and in Tel Aviv. And the IDF there, the Israeli Defense Force, is saying that missiles were launched from Iran toward the state of Israel. And Israeli civilians were ordered to obey the air raid sirens and shelter in place. Here is what it looked like about an hour ago, at least this piece. I saw this live when it was CNN fed it. It might actually have happened like 2 hours ago. But in any case, this is fairly contemporary video of the missiles raining down, and you can see people sheltering there. And Tony's got the video of what it looked and sounded like in Israel. This is in Tel Aviv when these missiles were incoming.
I mean, you can see.
Right now, I'm counting, Dan, at least a dozen in the air at one time.
This is
some rising.
This is a major attack. Jim Sciutto, this is obviously
it's a major attack. There's no
question.
What
you are seeing, what we are all seeing
Listen,
with our own eyes, is a major attack from Iran.
It's a major attack, Dana, and it's an escalation. It's an escalation of this war beyond what we saw. I think potentially beyond what we saw in April when Iran launched dozens of missiles and drones. This attack, according to U.S. intelligence, principally or perhaps entirely ballistic missiles, which are the fastest by far and the most dangerous. And now what we're seeing in addition to those intercepts is we're seeing fragments falling to the ground. It's like a deadly fireworks display over Tel Aviv. Goodness, there was an impact just to the left of us here.
And you're talking about Tel Aviv, Jim. We are looking at pictures right now. We are looking at pictures of Tel Aviv, what you're describing.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here.
Please do, Jim. Please do.
I thought one of the
down. One just about. We got to go inside.
Jim, please take cover.
So the fact that they are hitting with ballistic missiles inside Tel Aviv is a significant escalation to the historic back and forth that Israel has had with its already hostile neighbors. I'm speaking of Lebanon, I'm speaking of even Gaza with Hamas and the Houthis even. But this is Iran, and it's coming from Iran. Now, this is in retaliation for the incursion into Lebanon by Israel, and also Israel taking out the top Hezbollah figure who was very close to the Iranian leaders. So when you look at Iran and you look at Iran leadership, you are left with the, I think, inescapable notion that Iran felt compelled by leadership and also just by the back and forth and the provocation, you could call it that, as Israel entered their proxy's real estate, which is southern Lebanon. That's Hezbollah, of course. They felt compelled to act, and they acted here. And I thought one of the things that was, in addition to that being incredibly dramatic, one of the things that was crucial was the nature of the attack and the fact that they sent missiles into Tel Aviv that are the fastest moving missiles probably in the Iranian arsenal. The reason that is important is it distinguishes it from the last time. You'll remember the last time Israel endured this. There was, I forget the number. I mean, it was literally hundreds of airstrikes that were falling on Israel, but the Iron Dome was taking them out, and supposedly, anyway, there was cooperation with the Americans to help take them out. This time, you had, and you had warning. So that is, the Israelis had warning. So there was a sense that we're going to attack you. It's a real attack. It's in response to an attack that you have initiated, but we're warning you. This is not that. The warning came from the U.S. The U.S. warned Israel, and we saw the reports yesterday, that there was likely going to be a missile strike from Iran. They felt it was imminent. The American intel went out late yesterday, I believe. Maybe it was early this morning in the overnight hours. But in any case, this is a much different situation, it would seem, than the one to which I've referred, where you had an Iron Dome kind of defense. Again, Israel launched this, what they called limited military operation into Lebanon against Hezbollah. Hezbollah is probably the biggest Iranian proxy in the region. Now, as you know, Iran has proxies in, Hamas is an Iran-backed terrorist group, and the Houthis are an Iran-backed terrorist group, and they get funding and weaponry, etc. But Hezbollah is the more evolved and more sophisticated and clearly the most important, I'd suggest, proxy in the region. And they essentially run Lebanon. And southern Lebanon is all Hezbollah. So Israel went in, and Israel made tactical strikes on weaponry and on other areas that they felt were critical in Hezbollah's operation. And again, Israeli intelligence has identified Hezbollah leadership, and they've taken it out and taken those people out. And so Iran felt compelled to respond. Now, I have just one other thing, and that is that we fear, all of us do, the kind of spillover effect from this, that there could be a wider conflagration, right, to affect the entire region. And I think that's true. I think it's a legitimate fear, and it's one that we always have. This is a direct response from Iran. It distinguishes it from a lot of the other conflicts where Iran will act through their proxy of Hezbollah or the Houthis, etc. And by the way, that's part of a bigger conversation too, because Israel has not only pounded Gaza, but they have gone into Lebanon now to attack Hezbollah, which, as I've suggested, may be the most sophisticated Iranian proxy, and they've fired into Houthi armaments that and taken out some fuel supplies and some armaments that are associated with the Houthis. So you have essentially, so it's in Yemen. So you have essentially already kind of a three-front war, right? You have Lebanon, you have Gaza, you have the Houthis in Yemen. It's already feeling as though it could spill over. So now let me just spend 30 seconds on Iran. Iran, they care about all this. That's why they've done what they've done. And this continues to be of major importance, front and center, with the kind of intensity associated with this attack that certainly makes us fear that it may turn into a wider conflict. But let me say this. Iran has an interest in this not becoming a wider conflict. They also don't want a wider conflict. So on the one hand, they're compelled to respond, right? Their top guy taken out at Hezbollah, close to Iran, close to Iranian leadership, and, as I've told you, Hezbollah, the most sophisticated proxy in the region for Iran. For all those reasons, they must respond, and they did. But they don't want to see a hot war with Israel, because the Americans will get involved as well. And while it's a horror show for everybody, it's really a horror show for the Iranians, perhaps first. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Two questions. When I see something like this happen, I think these are countries that perhaps have nuclear weapons.
Right.
And so I immediately become concerned that this is going to escalate that way. And second, do you think that this is escalating at this particular time, right ahead of the election in the United States, or is that just a coincidence, or does it play any role?
I don't think the United States election has anything to do with this. I think the Netanyahu clinging to power part of the equation has a lot to do with it. Netanyahu, if he can sign a ceasefire agreement, get peace in the region, this is even after the Gaza situation, then he is poised to lose power, okay, and likely be tried and convicted. I mean, he is very Trumpian. He needs to stay in office in order to avoid essentially justice in Israel. And he's not a popular leader. So Netanyahu is clinging to power. And one of the ways in which he's clinging to power is to initiate these various military conflicts. Now, there's also a defense of these military incursions. October 7th showed us what Hamas does when they're right on our doorstep. They control Gaza. We're going to root them out. We've had enough of this. They killed, raped, and committed these horrendous war crimes, and we're going to get rid of Hamas once and for all. Okay, that's Gaza. In Lebanon, we've had to evacuate tens of thousands of Israelis from the border of Lebanon. They've lived there forever with this threat from Hezbollah, and now Hezbollah missiles are raining down on them, or Hezbollah bombs, to be clear about it. They weren't missiles. But anyway, now the argument is made in Israel, we've got to go into southern Lebanon. We've got to clear that out. So we make our area safe, that is to say, the region that borders Lebanon safe for our civilian population in Israel. And then the Houthis. The Houthis are also firing weapons into Israel. What do you do? So you begin to see how they make an argument for it in Israel, but how destabilizing it is for the region. But to your point, it can affect the American election, but it's not the American election that is figuring into this formula, I'd suggest. It's the Netanyahu clinging to power, and then it's the religious right in Israel. They are very strong and very powerful, and what a wonderful thing that another country has a religious right that creates all kinds of issues and problematic policy for their nation. It's crazy.
If the entire region gangs up on Israel to attack that country, will it survive?
Well, the quick answer to your question is no. I mean, although it's happened before. I mean, but that's not the way it would happen. It would happen with the Americans involved also. Right. So you would not be fighting a war with Israel. You'd be fighting a war with Israel and the Americans involved. And for that reason, Israel would survive. Yeah. But if you take the Americans out of the equation, I mean, I think it's harder and harder for some of the reasons that you've mentioned, which are associated with the kind of weaponry they now have.
Right.
But it's of intense concern. I'm just seeing in the chat, I haven't looked at the stock market today, but that's oftentimes an indicator of, how serious a situation it can be, because it spills over into U.S. markets. And I guess the market, you can tell me, Tony, maybe I think the market has been up and down, or Kim, you can tell me. I know you guys are trying to get Spencer Christian organized, but
that's right. That's what we're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. The Dow falls, NASDAQ drops 1% as oil spikes on escalating Middle East tensions. So that's the kind of thing that would happen in our U.S. markets in response to what is a perceived destabilization of the situation in the Middle East, right? Iran is why President Carter didn't get a second term. The Iranian hostage situation, this is Phineas's comment. The Iranian hostage situation certainly was an issue. I would suggest to you that there were other issues at play with his presidency, not the least of which was interest rates were, I think, 16.5%, 17%. And the American economy was laboring under that kind of thing. It was a very difficult period. It wasn't just the Iranian hostage situation, although I can certainly understand why you'd say that, because it was a big contributing factor to damaging his reputation. And as we've noted before, with Jimmy Carter, they essentially, the fix was in. The Reagan people said, wait until we're in power, literally wait until the inauguration of our guy to release the hostages, and that's exactly what they did. And the reason they could do it is they had the leverage of American power and Iranian money. That's what they released at the time. They were holding Iranian assets at the time, and it was a big deal. And it was a tremendous bit of leverage that the incoming Reagan administration used to say, hey, wait, and we'll release all of these funds to you, all of this Iranian money. And that's what they did. And indeed, as Reagan was inaugurated, the hostages were released. Netanyahu Mindy says, wants Trump to become president. The two of them will really mess things up. You know, I think that there is some truth to that. Yeah. Murphy Rowan says, my accounts are down 3% today.
Oh, no.
Oh, in her market. That's very bad because Murphy Rowan is one of our big contributors. I don't know what to do. I hope this doesn't affect her ability to support the show. My God. The Dow is, those are not dramatic numbers. The NASDAQ has the most dramatic number, but it's not even 2%. I'm just looking at the change. These are all the markets are down, but they're down, I would suggest, very modestly. Now, they may have bounced back. Maybe they were down more earlier. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.